In the silence of a desert cave, beneath layers of ancient dust and forgotten time, archaeologist Dr. Sarah Mendelsohn held a clay tablet that would shatter everything she thought she knew about biblical history. The cuneiform inscriptions glowed faintly in her headlamp's beam, revealing prayers written in a woman's hand, prayers to Asherah, the mother of heaven, the divine feminine that existed long before the patriarchal God of Abraham claimed dominion over the Hebrew people. "My goddess, my mother, she who births the stars," Sarah whispered, translating the ancient words. Her voice echoed in the sacred chamber where women had once gathered in secret devotion. The tablet trembled in her hands as she realized the magnitude of her discovery. This was not just archaeology. This was the recovery of a lost spiritual heritage, a testament to the divine feminine that had been systematically erased from sacred texts. The cave had been hidden for millennia, sealed by shifting sands and the deliberate actions of those who sought to bury the truth. Sarah had found it following a cryptic reference in a fragmentary manuscript discovered in the Cairo Bazaar. The elderly dealer who sold it to her had whispered, "Some knowledge is dangerous, child. Some truths change everything." His weathered eyes held a knowing sadness, as if he understood the weight of what he was passing on to her. For weeks, Sarah had worked alone in the cave, carefully excavating each artifact, each precious fragment of a forgotten world. The deeper she dug, the more evidence she found of Asherah's widespread worship among the Hebrew people. Pottery shards bore her sacred symbol, the tree of life with its branches reaching toward heaven and roots extending deep into the earth. Jewelry fragments showed the goddess in her full glory, crowned with stars, nursing divine children, her arms embracing all of creation. She was everywhere, Sarah murmured to herself, studying a particularly beautiful amulet depicting Asherah as the Queen of Heaven. How could they erase her so completely? The answer came gradually as Sarah pieced together the fragments of history scattered throughout the cave. The women who had worshipped here had hidden their sacred objects as the reforms of King Josiah swept through Judah, destroying the goddess's temples and outlawing her worship. They had known their time was ending, that the masculine god demanded exclusive devotion, that the divine feminine was being systematically eliminated from their spiritual landscape. One tablet particularly moved Sarah to tears. Written in the flowing script of a temple priestess named Miriam, it read, "They tell us she never existed, that we imagined her love, her protection, her nurturing presence. But we who have felt her touch know better. We who have nursed our children while whispering her prayers. We who have found solace in her embrace during our darkest hours. We know she is real. Let these words survive when we cannot. Let someone in the future remember that we loved her, that she loved us, that the divine has a mother's heart." Sarah set the tablet down with reverent care, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. She was not just an archaeologist anymore. She was a guardian of sacred memory, a bridge between the silenced past and the seeking present. The evidence she had found would challenge fundamental assumptions about monotheism, about the origins of Hebrew religion, about the role of women in ancient spirituality. As she worked deeper into the cave complex, Sarah discovered that it had been more than just a hiding place. It had been an active center of worship. Faded paintings on the walls showed women in ceremonial dress, their arms raised in praise to a goddess figure crowned with the horns of the moon. Altars carved from living rock still bore traces of offerings. Flowers, bread, wine poured out in devotion to the Mother of Heaven. The most stunning discovery came when Sarah found the inner sanctum, a circular chamber where the priestesses had conducted their most sacred rituals. In the center stood a stone pillar carved with spirals and flowing lines, representing the goddess as the source of all life. Around its base, dozens of small clay figures depicted women in various stages of pregnancy and childbirth. Prayers made manifest in clay, appeals to Asherah for safe delivery and healthy children. "You were the one they turned to," Sarah whispered to the ancient goddess, whose presence still seemed to linger in the sacred space. When they faced the uncertainty of birth, the fear of death, the need for comfort, you were there. You were real to them in ways that transcended theology and doctrine. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our content. And tell us in the comments where you are watching from. We would love to know. The deeper Sarah delved into her research, the more she understood the scope of what had been lost. Asherah had not been a minor deity or a foreign import. She had been central to Hebrew spirituality for centuries. Biblical texts themselves, when read with fresh eyes, contained traces of her presence. References to the Queen of Heaven that the prophet Jeremiah condemned, the mysterious wisdom figure in Proverbs who claimed to have been present at creation, the Shekinah or divine presence that would later emerge in Jewish mysticism, all were echoes of the great goddess who had been written out of official history, but the women had remembered. Even as their public temples were destroyed, even as their priestesses were silenced, they had continued to honor her in private. They had hidden her symbols in their jewelry, whispered her prayers over their children, maintained her festivals in secret. The cave was proof of their dedication, their refusal to let the divine feminine disappear entirely from their spiritual lives. Sarah found evidence of this underground resistance throughout the cave complex. Letters between priestesses, sharing news of hidden shrines and secret gatherings. Hymns praising Asherah as the mother of gods and men, the fertile earth who brought forth all life, healing formulas invoking her power to cure illness and protect the vulnerable. It was a complete spiritual system, as sophisticated and meaningful as any that had survived in the official religious traditions. The most poignant discoveries were the personal prayers, clay tablets where individual women had poured out their hearts to their beloved goddess. Asherah, my mother, my daughter refuses to eat and grows thin as a reed. Grant her appetite, that she may live and thrive. Great goddess, my husband beats me and my children cower in fear. Give me strength to protect them or wisdom to endure. Lady of heaven, I have bled for 3 months without bearing, and my womb aches with emptiness. Remember your daughter and grant me the child I long for. These were not abstract theological treatises, but the raw, honest prayers of women facing the fundamental challenges of human existence. Asherah had been their advocate, their protector, their source of strength in a world that often showed little regard for feminine concerns. To lose her had meant more than the loss of a deity. It had meant the loss of divine validation for women's experiences, women's wisdom, women's spiritual authority. As Sarah prepared to leave the cave for the final time, her excavation complete, she stood in the inner sanctum and felt the presence of all the women who had worshipped there. Their voices seemed to whisper through the centuries, "Remember us, tell our story. Let the world know we were here, that we loved her, that she loved us back." The implications of Sarah's discovery were staggering. If Asherah had been so central to Hebrew religion, if her worship had been so widespread and persistent, then the entire narrative of monotheism's development needed to be reconsidered. The idea that the Hebrews had always worshipped only one male deity was revealed as a later construction, a theological victory claimed by those who had systematically eliminated alternative forms of divine understanding. Sarah gathered her final photographs, her carefully catalogued artifacts, her precise translations of the ancient prayers. She knew that publishing her findings would create controversy, that traditional scholars would question her interpretations, that religious authorities would resist any challenge to established doctrine. But she also knew that the women who had hidden their sacred treasures in this desert cave had done so with the hope that someday someone would find them and remember. The last tablet she translated before sealing the cave contained words that seemed written directly to her across the millennia. Daughter of the future, if you read these words, know that the goddess lives in you as she lived in us. The divine feminine cannot be destroyed by decree or forgotten by design. She is the pulse of your heart, the breath in your lungs, the love in your embrace of your children. We hid these treasures not just to preserve our past, but to plant seeds for your future. Let Asherah rise again in the hearts of those who seek her. Sarah emerged from the cave into the blazing desert sun, forever changed by her encounter with the erased goddess. She carried with her not just archaeological evidence, but a sacred trust, to give voice to the silenced, to restore the lost, to ensure that the divine feminine would never again be completely erased from human consciousness. The Asherah Code was more than a historical discovery. It was a spiritual revolution waiting to unfold, a reminder that the sacred has always included the feminine, and that what has been buried can be resurrected by those brave enough to dig deep enough to find the truth. And if you like this story, you will definitely love the next one that's appearing on your screen. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, leave your like, and activate the notifications. See you in the next one.